Assalamu alaikum to everyone, and I hope you all will be fine. I am here with another topic, that is the Jatakas stories or previous birth stories. Before going into the main topic, I would like to just give you a brief introduction to the Gandhara art and the iconography of the Gandhara art. So, in the earliest Buddhist art, the Gautama Buddha, he was not sculpted in human form, and rather he was worshipped, or his presence was shown through symbolic representation. And in accordance with the Hinayana school of thought, various symbols they were employed to represent Buddha or to worship Buddha. And these symbols, they were lotus flower, which represents his birth at Lumbini garden, and an empty seed was another symbol, and empty seed under a Bodhi tree indicates his enlightenment, and the riderless horse denotes the great departure of Siddhartha, and a deer with a chakra represents the first sermon delivered in the deer park at Sarnath, and a stupa represents his death or Mahaparinirvana. So Hinayana iconography was based on orthodox principles and very rigid philosophical thoughts that restricted followers of the Buddhist religion from sculpting any image of the Buddha. So this early form of Buddhism flourished mainly in India, and particularly under the Mauryan rule. The Shunga rulers, they may have been the first to have the Hinayana mode of iconography, and perhaps around 188 BC. And the evidence that is found at the stupa of Barhut, and the Andhras from 72 BC, they also carved the symbolical representation of Buddha, and the evidence that is found at the stupa at Sanchi. After that, the symbolical mode was transmitted into human form. When the Mahayana, or the Mahayanism that was when introduced around the end of the first century BC, and the rigid ideology of Hinayana or Hinayana Buddhism, which forbade any depiction of the Buddha image in human form, that was now slowly and gradually replaced by a more lenient ideology. And rather than employing symbols, the sculptors, they influenced by this more liberal ideology, they convinced the first image of Buddha is and this image passed through various evolutionary stages, and this Hinayanism or Hinayana iconography that was replaced by Mahayana images, and in which the Buddha was for the first time carved in human form. And in Gandhara, it was the Mahayana faith that was in the hearts and minds of the carvers of this area, who created hundreds of statues by carving with untiring enthusiasm. So, in all means, the main focus of the Buddhist art of Gandhara, that was the propagation of Buddhism, and it also aimed the Buddha life story, individual images, previous birth stories of Buddha, which is also called Jataka stories, and which is the subject matter of the present topic or present talk, and images of the future Buddha, I mean the Bodhisattvas. And the most important among them, they are the images of the historic Buddha, his miracles, and all episodes from his birth to death, all of which were beautifully and liberally carved. The local devoted artists, they stimulated by the personality of the Buddha, took advantage of contexts, motifs, and technology from the Greeks, Romans, Persians, and Central Asians, and all these Gandharan panels, they represents the stories from the life of the Buddha. So the Jataka stories, they are very popular in the old art of Sanchi and Barhut, but in Gandhara, the most important, that is the worldly life of the Buddha. And the life stories of Buddha depicted in Gandhara art, they are an authentic document of the Mahayana text, composed perhaps during the time of Kanishka. So in fact, the sculptors of Gandhara, they translated the Buddhist Mahayana religious text into details, and the material they used, it was probably stone, stucco, terracotta, and also bronze, and even paintings. And they made these images more romantic, and providing a base that facilitated expansion of Buddhism into the Far East, along the Great Silk Road, through the travels of pilgrims and traders. And in Gandhara, the great stupa erected to enshrine the relics of the Buddha, they were profusely ornamented. Relief panels of Buddhist images, scenes in the life of the Buddha, stories of the Buddha's previous lives, and ornamental work, they were attached to the stupas, particularly as exhibited on its cornice molding and both base molding, lower and sometimes upper rim, and on the stair risers of the sopanas, are a flight of steps. The Harmika that was also adorned with images, and in addition to these votive stupas and shrines, they were constructed by the donors around the main stupa, and these shrines and votive stupas, they were also embellished with different images and illustrations from the life of Buddha, as well as bodhisattvas, atlants, and garland bearers, and other important motifs. They were also carved on stupas. Now we will just discuss the Jataka stories, which is the main topic of this today's talk. So according to the Buddhist textual accounts, there are about 550 Jataka stories. In some accounts, it varies to 540, and some also they record the number of these Jatakas is 555. However, in Gandhara, we have just the evidence of 12 Jataka stories so far known to us. And the names of these Jataka stories, they are Dipankara Jataka, Shyama Jataka, Vishwantara Jataka, Amara Jataka, and Metra Kanyaka Jataka, Sibir Jataka, Varyabala Jataka, Muchamaliha Jataka, and Mahaga Jataka, Sadanta Jataka, Chanda Kinara Jataka, and Santivadin Jataka. Now we will discuss these Jataka stories one by one, and the historical background of these Jataka stories. So the textual record, they relates that Dipankara Jataka, he was born as a Brahman, and in the Pali text, the hero of the story, that is known as Sumedha. Mahavastu records the hero of the story as Megha, and Divya Vadana record the hero of the story as Sumati. The story of Dipankara Jataka, it took place near in Kandahar, Afghanistan, the neighboring kingdom of Gandhara. And in this story, a king named Vasavasa, he offered 5 gifts to Sumati, who is the legend of the story. These gifts included a gold decorated bed, jewels 500 kinds, a water pot, and a golden staff, and an ornamented bride. Sumati, he accepted all the gifts, but except the bride. The bride, she was very much impressed from this act of Sumati, and requested him to accept her as her bride. But some of the traditions, they note that while searching for flowers, in the later of the story, when Sumati he heard that Dipankara Jataka, he will visit the city, and he was searching for flowers to throw over the Buddha, and welcomed him for this important occasion. When he was searching for the flower to offer to the Dipankara Buddha, Sumati, he was unable to find flowers for the welcoming occasion. The hero, I mean Sumati, he came to meet with a girl, and she had flowers. The boy demanded to have flowers at any cost, but she refused again and again. And however, in this regard, it is generally believed that the bride or the girl agreed only to deliver flowers to Sumati if she promises her to marry her in her next incarnation, which he accepted. And according to the traditions, when Dipankara entered the city gate, Sumati is a homage threw the flowers over the Buddha, and the flowers, they were suspended in the air miraculously. Moreover, he knelt down and spread his hair before the Buddha to protect his feet from the muddy ground as the rain starts. So in order to protect his feet from the muddy ground, Dipankara Jataka, he knelt down and spread his hair. And when Dipankara saw this admirable posture, he immediately received the boy and told him that you will become Buddha after me. So in this connection, it is said that that boy was in the later on he born as Siddhartha, and the girl from which he borrowed flowers, she born as Yashudra, the wife of Siddhartha or Buddha in the next life. And Sumati or Sumedi, he is mostly shown in the panels, kneeling mostly to the left of the panel, and Buddha, he is depicted to the right of the panel. However, in 3 instances, the kneeling figure of Sumati is depicted to the right of the panel, and Dipankara Buddha is carved to the left. In addition to this, reversal of the usual placement of the principal figures depicts Dipankara Buddha is perhaps pulling up the kneeling figure. So this is a unique feature not seen in other Dipankara Jataka or the Dipankara story panels recovered so far from different areas. Another noteworthy feature illustrated by sculptures, the legend is executed in panels surrounded by arches. In one case, broken at the left end, while in the other at the bottom end. So the pattern is the carving of Tauser centaur figures that may be seen in both cases above the right of the arch. This is the panel that shows Dipankara Jataka, or the story of the Dipankara Jataka. The right side of the panel depicts a girl standing in the gateway of the city, and she is represented by a door jamb with base and part of a crowned lintel. And she holds flowers in right hand, water pitcher and under her left arm, and wearing jewelry and an elaborate headdress over her head. On her right side, Sumati is standing facing towards her, and he is wearing an elaborate turban and dressed in a tunic. So this panel is badly damaged and showing the key event in the Jataka of Dipankara Buddha, which is executed at the largest scale ever reported, particularly from Gandhara. The individual figures, they are wrought in high relief and cut in the round. Moreover, the unusual size of the figures and the depth created in the entire panel allows detail to be shown clearly. So starting from left to right, the girl is standing in the rectangular entrance, gate of a city, and she is wearing dhoti with wavy folds. Her right hand is missing, but it seems that she holds water pot under her left arm, is the usual attribute of this, or the usual pose in which she stands. And she is mostly shown with water pot under her left arm, so that's why it may be assumed here in this panel as well. Sumati is standing to the left of the girl. His head is missing, but it appears that he was leaning slightly towards his right side, suggesting that he is receiving flowers from the girl, as recorded in the legend. This panel shows 4 important scenes. So starting from the left and first scene, Sumati is shown standing with his hair combed to the back in a wavy style, crowned by Ushnisha and wrist, holding a purse in his right hand and a water pot in his left. And he is shown talking to a girl who is standing in the rectangular entrance of a city gate. And the girl is wearing a tunic and upper garment and ornamented hair with ribbon, and holding water pot or water jar under her left arm, and lotuses in another hand, or perhaps in both hands. She holds lotuses and a water pot under her left arm. And in the second scene, Sumati is shown is throwing lotus flowers at Dipankara Jataka, and with his raised right hand, Dipankara Buddha, and the right hand of Sumati, you can see here, that is raised, throwing flowers over the Dipankara Buddha, who is standing to his right. In the other panels of the same style, the lotuses, they were suspended in the air above the head of Dipankara, but they are not visible here in this panel. And Sumati is clad in the same dress as he wore in the first panel discussed earlier, but a thread is clearly visible across his chest. Here you can see the thread which he wears are tied across his chest. Above Sumati, a figure is shown and wearing monastic robes and sitting in Anjali Mudra pose. And in the third scene, Dipankara Buddha is depicted wearing lower garment, which is also called dhoti in local terms, and shawl, and standing in Abhaya Mudra pose, and acknowledging Sumati attitude as Sumati spreads his hair before the Dipankara Buddha. So here you can see the leaning figure of Sumati, and has spread hairs to protect the feet of Dipankara Buddha from the muddy ground. And the fourth scene, Sumati is wearing a monastic robe and shown kneeling before the Buddha. So this is the fourth scene in which you can see Sumati is kneeling before the Dipankara Buddha. And this is a shaven-headed monk in monastic robe, and he is holding a wreath and stands behind the Dipankara Jataka. So this is the fourth scene of this panel, and the head of the bearded Vajrapani is executed just above the figure of the monk. So here you can see the bearded figure of Vajrapani. But here the thunderbolt, which is the common attribute of Vajrapani, that is missing and not clearly shown. And moreover, two balconies, here you can see the two balconies in the background of this panel. And the first balcony depicts a lady to the right and a man to the left. And while the second is similar in details as to the first one. So here are the small figures of the two balconies, and the small figures of the lady and and a man in the balcony. So the next story, the next Jataka story, that is the story of Shiyama, and in this story, it is also based. This story is also based on a Brahmin who wandered for many years and then married. And after the birth of a son whose name was Shiyama, he renounced the world and went into a jungle along with his wife and son. So they lived there in a hut, and eventually they went blind with the passage of time. They became blind, and so that their only son, Shiyama, he served his parents. And Bodhisattva Shiyama, he was a very obedient son of his parents who served them for many years. One day, when he was drawing water in the jungle, so he was struck and killed by the arrow of a king who had come to hunt in the jungle. So later, he was miraculously restored to life. Two panels of the Shiyama Jataka in the Peshawar Museum, they depict this scene, and in the first, the king is hunting deer with arrows, and in the second, the parents are with the body of the dead Shiyama in the hut, and Shiyama was hit instead of the deer, and then he died. This is the first panel that shows the story of Shiyama Jataka, and the frieze is carved in low relief, and to the right side of the panel, Shiyama is sitting in profile with his left knee bent, placed on the ground, and his right foot on the placed on the ground, probably helping a deer with bent legs to drink water. This is the scene depicted to the right side of the panel. In the background, another deer is shown, and a tree is carved by the side of the deer. To the left side of the tree, the figure of a king. Here is the tree, and this is the figure of the king, who is standing wearing a turban and dressed in royal tunic and holding bow and arrow towards the deer. The king is facing to the left and aiming to shoot the deer. However, as shown in the relief, the arrow instead of the deer struck Shiyama. And a soldier is standing with a bow placed on the ground to the right side of the king, and behind him on the far left side of the panel, another figure is facing to right side and holding what is probably a bow and arrow. All these three figures, they wear short tunics and trousers, and a few leaves they are also carved in the background of this panel. And this is another panel which is a stair riser relief, and it contains four scenes. Stylistically, these scenes, they are composed in landscape pattern with expressive figures. The narration runs from left to right, and the left end of the panel is almost entirely broken. At this end, the defaced and broken dead body of Shiyama is lying on the ground. Only his feet and hands, his left hand and knees, they are visible. Next to Shiyama is the king, equipped with his bow and pointing with his right hand towards Shiyama, informing a sick, blind, bearded old man and old woman, who are the parents of Shiyama, about the death of Shiyama. And the parents of the boy, they are shown inside a straw and bamboo hut, sitting on a cane seat. The central scene shows the king guiding the blind parents towards the dead body of Shiyama. The king has a bejeweled hairstyle, wears a necklace and bracelet, and is dressed in local costume tied at the waist, and holds a bow in his left hand. He holds the arm of the old man with his right hand, while the wife of the old man, the mother of Shyama, places her right hand on the right shoulder of her husband and follows him. Shyama's father, he is dressed in a short tunic, while his mother wears a long draped garment in which her left shoulder is covered, but the right remains exposed. So in this scene, the figures are carved with round, fleshy faces, and the parents are shown in profile. The fourth scene is depicted on the right side of the panel, alongside the full bloomed acanthus leaves. At the far right, where the dead body of Shyama is lying on the ground, his father is sitting by his head, while his mother is by his feet in mourning attitude. The Shyama Jataka, that is followed by Vishwantara Jataka, another Jataka that depicts the story of charity. So here the Buddha was he was shown as Prince Vishwantara, the son of a king of Shili. This prince was famous for his generosity, and he had a wonderful white elephant that could bring rain with its miraculous power. Once there was a great famine in Kalinga. The king of Kalinga sent a delegation of Brahmins to request the prince Vishwantara to give the elephant to them so that it could bring rain and end the famine. As he was well known for his charity, so he gave his elephant to them, and as a result, his stepmother lodged a complaint against him before the king, and the king punished him for this act of generosity. Vishwantara, he was exiled to the jungle with his wife and children, and on the way to the jungle, he also gave his horse, children, and at the end, even his wife in charity. So, according to the tradition, this was a premeditated test to check the Vishwantara's attitude towards worldly affairs, and in the end, after successfully demonstrating his generous mode of life, Vishwantara's family was again united and everything was restored. So this is the panel that shows the story of Vishwantara Jataka. So this relief depicts an elephant in profile to the left side, and it faces to the right. So alongside the elephant is Bodhisattva Vishwantara and a Brahman standing, and Bodhisattva Vishwantara, he is dressed in royal robe and has a round fleshy face and is shown with Oshnisha over the head. Vishwantara is holding an ewer with which he is likely pouring water on the Brahman's right hand, and illustrating the local tradition in which the donation or transfer of different things were conducted. And the Brahman, though he is defaced, turned towards Vishwantara, and the Brahman is depicted wearing short lower garment and wearing and holding long staff in left hand. A figure with low turned face to the right and with slightly bent feet standing alongside a palm tree to the right side. The right arm of this figure is fully stretched and raised and wearing long drapery and turban. The attitude appears to suggest the disagreement with the charity shown by the Bodhisattva. The upper part is a continuous band of denticulate design carved in low relief. These are the two more panels that shows the story of Vishwantara Jataka, and they are now in the Peshawar Museum. And it is followed by the Amara Jataka story. So in his previous lives or births, the Buddha was not only born as a male or an animal form, etc., but also he born as a female and even in other forms as well. So in the following Jataka, the Buddha was born in female form as a woman named Vararuchi. After some time, her husband suffered some hardship and was forced to travel. So he gives some money to his neighbor for the household expenses of his wife. And in his absence, a young officer, a priest, and a son of a minister, they saw Vararuchi and fell in love with her. So Her neighbor also fell in love with her, and he refused to give the money her husband had left for her. Now, at last, she invited them all to visit her house at different times, and then draped them in a large basket. The last one was her neighbor, who told that he had her husband's money in front of the other three draped persons. So the next morning, she told the story of the king. Later, when the men and the baskets they were brought to the king as witness, they told the same story. And the panels of Amara Jataka depict the story of a faithful wife. This is the panel, an in relief panel, and the only example in the Peshawar Museum that depicts the story of Vishwantara Jataka. And this panel is broken at the right end, particularly at its lower corner. So it has a slanting track across the center as well. Here you can see, and there is a small damage to the left side as well. The carving is carried out in low profile and is composed in a naturalistic manner and is shown in landscape orientation. Starting from right to left, there is a male figure bending towards the right of the panel. So this may be one of the lovers who visited Amara, bending over to hide in a basket, or it may be a male servant hiding one of the lovers. So a female figure is shown in the extreme right upper corner. Behind the male figure in front of a tree is a standing but defaced figure of Amara, and she is depicted as wearing long draped robe and watching the male figure. And the central scene shows a basket with three heads representing the lovers. To the right side, a male figure clad in a short garment over his lower body and wearing a turban is standing and holding a rough staff in his left hand, while his right hand is raised towards the female figure to the left of the basket. So this female figure representing Amara is standing slightly bent towards the right. Is standing slightly bent towards the right with her left hand pointing towards the basket. The third part of this panel depicts a king and queen sitting on a throne observing the central scene. So, in Maitra Kanyaka Jataka, and his previous births, Bodhisattva Maitra Kanyaka, he is born, is the son of a ship owner. In this Jataka, he is depicted as a disobedient son of his parents. His mother advised him not to go to sea, but he did not hear to his mother's advice and went to sea, and his ship was lost. At the end, his roaming spirit brought him to that hill where those sons they were punished who strike their mothers. So the panel in Peshawar Museum portray different expeditions of Maitra Kanyaka during the course of his wanderings. And in these panels, they are generally based on the horizontal layout of sculpting attitude. The first relief in this regards depicts the expedition of Maitra Kanyaka, and a bullock cart can be seen here, which is moving towards the right of the panel, and with two turban figures sitting inside, and a lady is standing behind the bullock cart with her left hand raised, perhaps in the gesture of farewell. And here two more figures they can be seen standing in a square frame and playing music. So the lady to the right, she has a flute, and the other one holds a drum. The next scene, it shows three scenes. So the right side of the panel is broken, and to the left end has a Corinthian pilaster. So starting from right to left, Bodhisattva Maitra Kanyaka, he is standing to the full height of the panel and wearing draped robe, earrings, necklace, amulet and bracelet, and his hair they are combed in a wavy style and topped by Ushnisha, and he is facing to the right where a female figure is standing before him, and at a door entrance, she is standing at a door entrance, and her knees they are bent, and she holds floral reed. So she is looking at Maitra Kanyaka and welcoming him inside the entrance, and she is clad in a long lower garment and a shawl, and her hair, they are elaborately dressed. In the second part of the panel, Bodhisattva Maitrikanyaka is shown leaving a room, and the two figures, they are sitting on high chairs. So the male figure, wearing a turban and dressed in a draped robe with his right shoulder uncovered, he is shown playing a stringed instrument and sitting with his legs partially crossed. The female figure is sitting facing to the right towards the male figure, and her right hand is raised towards the male figure. Her hair is combed backward, and she is wearing anklets and a long robe. So Maitrikanyaka is shown behind the woman in a doorway, with his right hand raised, and his left hand holding his robe, and his right foot inside the entrance to the next room. He is looking into the third room, where a male figure wearing a garment, only his lower body is facing towards. He is wearing a garment only on his lower body, and is facing towards the Maitrikanyaka, and he is leaning against a club. He holds in left hand and pointing with his right hand towards the image at his right. So this figure represents the guardian of the afterworld, and he is pointing toward an image of Maitrikanyaka sitting with a chakra or fire wheel over his head, held by the upraised hands, representing punishment and the afterlife. So this slide shows the four scenes of Maitrikanyaka. They are present in the Peshawar Museum, and here is the entire story of the Jatakas in the Peshawar Museum. So the first relief, that is the Pankara Jataka, and the second one is Shyama Jataka, and the third one shows the story of Vishwantara Jataka, and followed by Amara Jataka, and then at the end is Maitrikanyaka Jataka. So these are the best examples of the stories now housed in the Peshawar Museum, and collectively shown here in this slide. Thank you very much for listening to this general lecture of Jataka stories, which is housed in the Peshawar Museum, Pakistan. And this was another lecture of the lecture series, and started by Professor Dr. Muhammad Naeem Qazi, and from the Department of Archaeology, University of Peshawar. And this will be helpful for those students who is interested to study the Gandhara art, and particularly the different stories related to the life of Gandhara art, related to the life of Gautama Buddha, and also to Buddhism and other various aspects of the Gandhara art. Thank you very much again for listening to this video,